Hello, I just want to welcome everyone to this interview. I am going to be interviewing Sierra. Say hello, Sierra.
Hello.
Sierra was a client of mine years ago. We met, we actually worked together where I worked before at an organization several years ago now.
Hmm.
It was pre-COVID, right? When we first
Yes.
met. And then we worked together for a little bit, and then you graduated high school
Hmm.
and COVID hit. And then you came and kind of found me later. And
Yes.
then we've worked together. We're not currently working together right now. You're taking a little bit of a break.
Hmm.
But we worked together for how long was it? Was it about a year, would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm. Okay, so we've done all remote, we've done all video or phone
Hmm.
because of COVID. And
Yeah.
we live a little bit of a distance away from each other too, so that kind of worked out.
Hmm.
Um, I was going to bring this up later, but I might as well ask real quick. If if you could compare just briefly when we did work together in person, that shorter time compared to like doing video and phone, is there much of a difference for you, or were you surprised by anything? Like,
I personally think I'm more comfortable online just because I
interesting.
can do it in the comfort of my home, I guess, and I can wear pajamas or whatever I want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Right? Less effort going into it as far as
Yeah.
getting ready and
Hmm.
yeah, and it's convenient, right? Being able to do it from wherever.
Yeah, definitely. Because it was a little bit of a drive. It was like 45 minutes to
Oh,
get to
sure.
where you were stationed.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I can identify with that working from home. There's pros and cons, but it is convenient, right? Being able
Yes.
to work together at a distance. And I'm glad to hear that you say that you're more comfortable online, because I think some people need to hear that. I think some
Yeah.
people that haven't done it, they're like, oh, I think I prefer in person. Once they start doing it, they actually could enjoy it or like it even more.
Hmm.
So that's good for people to hear, I think.
Yeah.
So just going to give you some questions and just do the best you can here to answer them, and anything else you want to share that you think our viewers and potential potential clients out there might want to hear. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we'll just start off with, was there a time in your life that you wouldn't have considered asking for help from a professional?
Yes. So probably about 2 years ago, I've always been in and out of counseling even since I was little,
Mhm,
but I think it was about 2 years ago, I struggled really severely with anxiety
mhm,
and I didn't know how to handle it by myself, but I thought that I had to. And
sure.
it wasn't for a while after dealing with that I understood I couldn't handle it on my own.
Mm,
And it took a lot to ask for help, but I'm definitely grateful that I did.
yeah, good. I'm so glad. So tell me a little bit, when you say it took a lot to ask for help, like, were there, thoughts that went through your mind, like specific fears, or was it more, I mean, and the fact that you struggle with anxiety, I think
Mhm.
viewers might identify with
Yeah.
knowing that if you struggle with anxiety, you're going to err more on the side of worry.
Yeah.
So, were there specific scenarios that you were afraid of, or was it more um, just kind of like the unknown or feeling pressure? Like anything specific that would keep you at times from reaching out?
I think so in my case, how it went was I hid my anxiety from everybody, so I kind of just didn't want anybody to know,
Sure.
and, um, I couldn't get to a counselor on my own because I was a minor, so I'd have to have my parent take me, and they
Mm,
didn't really know either, um, but once I started opening up to people, it's like a freeing experience
mm,
because then it doesn't hold as much power over you and you get to know that other people are going through the same thing on different levels.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So telling your parents just in general, right, is
Mhm.
there's a lot to that. Um, and that's good for people to hear too, because some people, whether they are minors or they have children, they could that I'm sure they could be encouraged to hear you say that once you did come forward, because I think the first time you came in, I even, your dad came in with you and I met him,
Yeah.
that it was freeing.
Mhm.
So I think that's really good. And that was probably a bit of the payoff and the motivation to keep going, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Because I knew what I was trying to do on my own wasn't working, and I didn't have the resources I needed in order to get better.
Sure, sure. I commend you for reaching out, because it's
Thank
that
you.
first step is always so hard.
Mhm.
So I'm really proud of you for sure. So we already kind of touched on this a little bit, but what caused you to reach out, when you maybe even the second time or the first time you came to me? I mean, I know all the reasons, but
Yeah.
maybe just sharing a little bit with people, with some of the things that you were looking for,
Mhm.
in addition to the anxiety management. And you can share as little or as much as you want. And then maybe there were even things you were looking for, but you couldn't put words to it. And then
Yeah.
like in our time together, it kind of came out and I was able to
Mhm.
help you with resources.
Yeah, I'd say so. When I had first come looking for counseling, it was because I was struggling with anxiety right after a difficult breakup. I've always struggled with anxiety, but at that point it turned into um a mountain of it instead of just like a little bit here and there.
Sure.
And so at first that's what we focused on working on was anxiety management, different techniques I could use, and things like that. And then COVID happened, so we kind of took a break for a little bit. And then that winter, the upcoming winter, I think, um, I came back because I was struggling with anxiety related to my faith. And that was something that we also worked on.
Sure.
Faith based
Mhm.
anxiety management was a big help. So
Sure.
those are the main things that we focused on.
Mhm.
But then it was also good to work on like motivation in general because dealing with anxiety and anxiety induced depression, motivation is hard to find. So
Mhm.
it was good to have some techniques to use to
Okay.
keep myself going on certain days.
Yeah, sure. I'm so glad that it was helpful. And for our viewers, if you haven't read up on me or nothing about me or my journey, um, I was a counselor before, so I have experience as a mental health counselor. I have a master's in clinical mental health. So when Sierra met me, what you're referring to is when I was
Hmm.
working for the other organization as a mental health
Yes.
counselor. So since then, for our viewers, I've um, transitioned away from that and chose not to continue with certification and licensure. I've decided to stay as a life coach. And this is my business. Here we are at the YouTube channel, Life
Hmm.
Coaching with MB. So even though Sierra started with me as a counselee, as a client, we did transition to more of the coaching side. So the journey too, I think, the timeline was interesting because you
Hmm.
you did get help for your anxiety, and we did some exploring, childhood
Yeah.
stuff and family stuff, and then that second half of our time together was more, as you mentioned, um, the resources, right,
Yeah.
of how to fight the anxiety and deal with the depression. And sometimes that includes going to a doctor, things like
Hmm.
that, getting blood work and all of that. Um, so just so everybody's clear, that's I'm doing the coaching now, but
Yeah.
you've benefited from both
Hmm.
sides. excuse me. Excuse me again. So I think it's good for people to hear that even as a
Yeah.
coach, that I'm actually providing some anxiety management
Yes.
resources.
Hmm.
So that's good. Thank you, for sharing that and that it was
Yeah.
helpful. That's encouraging to me. Um, so would you recommend me to others? It's kind of an
Yes.
awkward question. I feel like there should be a third person here kind of interviewing both of us.
Yeah.
And there might be some of that down the road to come.
Hmm.
But this is the hard question for me to ask you. Would you recommend me and why? And maybe even share anything else that sets me apart from other people you've worked with, or
Hmm.
maybe things that you do enjoy about me, and other things you've learned along the way too that I've helped you with.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend you. Um,
Thank you.
you're welcome. For me, it was super important because I am a Christian to work with a Christian counselor slash life coach.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was like the most important thing for me. But obviously, you also have clients that are not Christians. I'd say the thing that sets you apart from my other um, counselors that I've had, I haven't ever had a life coach besides you, but was that you were extremely friendly and kind, but you were also honest. Like if
Mhm.
something you noticed um, could be changed, or if you noticed something that we were struggling with that maybe I didn't even notice, you would let me know about it. And then I think the most important thing was probably the fact that you don't have like a step by step program that works for everybody.
Mm,
Like you, even with me on various occasions, you would say, we could try this, but if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. There's other options,
mm,
which is good because not everybody's like a cookie cutter. Not everyone fits the same mold. So
sure.
knowing that your clients are all different is really important.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad to get that feedback.
Yeah.
Because I do strive for that.
Hmm.
I wonder if on the other side of that at times, just to challenge you a little further, I wonder if that could be frustrating at times. Like maybe there were times where you came in and you're like, just give me an equation, just tell me what's gonna work. And
Yeah.
like, were there times you felt that too? You know what I mean?
I'd say yes, not like, not like, I don't know how to explain it. I'd say yes, just because like I wanted an easy answer for my anxiety and depression, not necessarily
Taking
that.
this time and the process and
Yeah.
trial
Yeah.
and
So
error.
that's the probably the only reason why I would want
Right.
like a set, do this and it will take away everything. But that's not how it works.
I think we all want that at times as
Yeah.
humans, right? Especially living in the West. Like we have drive-throughs, we have microwaves, we have
Yes.
the internet, our phones, like everything is at our disposal.
Hmm.
So I think I'm glad you're touching on that because I think even though that is a pro of what I do reach for, right? Being
Yeah.
client-centered, not having that cookie cutter expectation. Being honest that sometimes it can be frustrating. You
Yeah.
want that quick fix. Were there ever times, this is impromptu, this wasn't on the list
Hmm.
of questions, but were there ever times that you wanted to give up because of that? You're like, oh, this process, or man, I've talked about this with her already so many times, or, were there ever times where you felt, even for a moment, like defeated, or you wanted to cancel a session because you just, oh, this is so much work?
I don't think I ever wanted to cancel a session. There were definitely times where like I wasn't looking forward to it, but
Sure.
every time I would Zoom you,
Mhm.
I would like make myself go because I knew that I would get something out of it, even if it was small.
Good.
And I feel like I was just discouraged because it is such a long process and that's normal. But sometimes after working at it for so long, you're like, oh, it's just never going to end. But
Sure.
um, even I think we don't see the progress we make
Mm.
often. And like, it doesn't seem like we're getting better because we're still in it.
Mhm.
But I'd say that's probably what was most frustrating is
Sure.
you could probably see the progress because you're outside looking in, but
Yes.
it's difficult sometimes.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that the last comment you made, because it's understandable.
Mhm.
I think we can all identify in some way. And for some of our viewers, they might be like, oh man, my suspicions were correct. This is a long process.
Yeah.
But don't let that deter you. Don't sign off yet. I think the
Yeah.
point is too is hopefully I did give you feedback from time to time because it
Mhm.
is easier for me as the outsider, right? To be like,
Yeah.
"Man, look how far you've come." It's kind of like when if anybody's ever grown a garden or has a plant or whatever, or even in elementary
Mhm.
school, sometimes they have you plant a seed and over time they see it just, oh, it finally budded up. Just because it doesn't look like anything coming up yet, there's a lot happening below the surface.
Yeah.
So giving it time to grow and now where you're at now, taking a break, um, was that because you got tired and you're like, oh, or because you did see enough progress? You did get to a point where you felt, because I never want people to feel like, oh, you just have to keep going with me. No,
Yeah.
there's an expiration date usually.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say probably one of the main reasons that I took a break from counseling was I did feel like I was ready to take that break.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was doing good because we even spaced out my sessions. For a while, I was going like once a week or once every other week,
Mm-hmm.
but we slowly like spaced them out so I could get used to longer distances between times.
Right.
And that definitely helped as well to kind of wean off of counseling and life coaching.
Okay.
Um, and also with doing college and everything, it was a little hectic, but being on Zoom definitely helped with that too, like
The
not having to
convenience.
drive a little bit to go there. But yeah.
Yeah, that convenience factor. I
Mhm.
think there was even a time or two where like you'd call me right after work or right after a doctor's appointment. Like it
Yeah.
just was convenient, right?
Mhm.
So really quick before we kind of wind down, because we're almost to the end here of this interview, but just I think you brought up some interesting points. So could you speak into that for a second about um knowing when to like, because obviously it was helpful to spread out the sessions, right? Like
Yeah.
if I hadn't brought that up at some point where I said, hey, because I think from the beginning I try to do that with all my people.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not a cookie cutter with each of my people either. So hopefully I'm verbalizing that enough to people like, hey,
Mhm.
you ever want to step back, do you think that was helpful? And what could you say to people that are feeling that way? And I haven't said that yet. Like, hey, if you want
Yeah.
to go out once a month, once every 6 weeks, that's fine. Like, what would you say to people about knowing how often or when to, break those up a little bit more as far
Yeah.
as session timelines?
I'd say it depends on how much work you're willing to put in outside of it because
Mhm.
if you know you're only going to do work while you're in session, then you'll want to have sessions closer together.
Okay.
But if you're willing to put in at least one day a week outside of session working
Mhm.
on stuff, then you could spread them out more because you're still keeping up with what you should be doing.
Sure.
But I think I also, like in the beginning, because we were just starting and learning about each other and about what I was really struggling with and what goals I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, we needed every week or every other week because it's just a lot of information at first.
Mhm.
But as you get more into the routine and everything, and you know what you're working on, how you're getting there, and things like that, it's easier to spread out the sessions more. And
Mhm.
it's not a bad thing. It's not like you're ditching your counselor. This
Right.
is what their job is. Their job
Right.
is like to help people grow and then to let them go.
Yep.
It's what you do.
Exactly. It's like teaching, like when you're
Yeah.
in elementary school or even all the way up to high school, you have those teachers, for a certain amount of time, and then at the end of the
Mhm.
year, they say goodbye. It is
Yeah.
it is the nature of it for sure.
Mhm.
That's really great for us to be covering all this because I think people have
Yeah.
questions and comments and they don't really know how to navigate that, or they don't want to hurt each other's feelings.
Mhm.
So that's why that's one of the biggest goals of me doing these interviews.
Yeah.
So they can hear from you. So this is valuable
Mhm.
information. And it's good feedback for me too. I think I am a human being, and it is hard to let people go.
Yeah.
I'm just that way, that you
That's
may
a
talk.
good thing.
Yeah, like you may talk to another provider and they're like, no, it was time. Good, and just different
Yeah.
personalities. And I respect that.
Mhm.
But I will admit I am a little bit more on the, oh, okay, well, I hope, it's that motherly side
Yeah.
of me. Like even my friends would always joke with me, like that was like the mother of the group.
Mhm.
So but ultimately I am proud, and I do want my people to verbalize to me, I need some
Yeah.
space, but I am proud of you for how far you've come. And it's obvious that you have gained a lot and that you see the fruit of your work, bringing you to a point of, okay, I think I'm good. I want to try to live out some of this on my own. Right?
Yeah.
That's the test. It's like taking off the training wheels when you learn how to ride the
Mhm.
bike. Like, okay, you're gonna
Yeah.
fall a couple times, or maybe remember when I was young, I got stuck in the fence. We had these gaps between this fence we had, and there were little gaps between the pieces of wood, and I would get stuck in it. And my dad would always be like, why do you keep riding into that? I didn't know how to use the brakes properly. Anyway, and I would kind of tumble. So that's part of it, right? There may be a
Yeah.
time where, who knows, maybe I hear from you in a few weeks and you're like, hey, there's
Mhm.
someone I want to run by you. And we set up a
Yeah.
session. But so again, there's no cut and dry or
Yeah.
equation of this is how much time you take off before you start up again. But
Yeah, and
I
that's
love it.
good. It's it was nice knowing that although I was taking a break and, like, there's not a defined time that I'm taking my break, but
Mhm.
it's good to know that, like, I can come back to you. It's not like I'm done and gone and
Nope,
never see you again.
exactly. Exactly. I'm glad that you feel that way.
Yeah.
So, I think if you were to start up again, what do you think well, let's incorporate this into our final question, which is, what would you say to others who are a little bit nervous or embarrassed, or maybe they have some of these specific concerns? Maybe they're a people
Mhm.
pleaser, maybe they don't have enough assertiveness and they don't know how to speak up for what they want, and they just default. They're afraid they're going to default to me, and then not really know what to do. Like, what would just be like a piece of advice or two that you would give to people who are just, they're not quite ready to make that next step, but they're almost there. They're watching this and they're like, oh, I probably should, but I don't know. I don't want to tell everyone everything. I'm embarrassed. I
Yeah.
don't want to. I know that's a little bit of a broad question, open-ended. Does anything come
Yeah.
to mind?
I would say, at least for me, it may not seem like it during this video, but I'm really not a talker. Like, I don't initiate conversations.
Hmm.
So, something that I would say to people who, like, aren't sure if it's for them, um, as far as life coaching and stuff like that, what I liked was that you would say, "Is there anything that you want to work on?" And
Mm-hmm.
usually I wouldn't know what to say, so you would ask me questions, which opened up conversation and things like that.
Good.
And then also, my dad told me, which was like a really interesting thing. He said, this was when I was doing counseling, but I'm sure it works for life coaching,
Mhm.
that like doing life coaching is like dating. Like the first person you go to isn't necessarily the person you're going to choose to be with, and that's okay.
Yep.
Like you have to make sure that your personalities mesh and things like that. So
Yeah.
for the people that have gone to life coaches before and didn't like it, I'd say don't give up and keep trying because like the first person you date, you don't have to stick with them.
Right.
It's if you don't mesh, it's probably better you don't stick with them and
Yes.
you move to someone else.
We've had these conversations, you and I.
Yes. Yes. So
As a
I'd say that's my
19-year-old woman,
advice.
you've been down
Yes.
this road a few times. Yep.
Yes.
19,
Yes.
not 20
Yes.
yet. That's right.
Nope, not 20 yet.
Okay. Got it right. That's great. I love it. I think that's great. So that's good feedback for me too, to hear
Mhm.
that if yeah, you might come in and have all this stuff you want to work on and talk about every session, where then I kind of coach you along the way. But then if
Yeah.
you don't, I at least have the resources or the questions to guide you.
Yes.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cute how you said, I know it doesn't seem like I'm much of a talker. And I just smiled because I was like, I remember in the beginning, like you're so sweet. And I always have felt a connection with you
Thank
where I
you.
where I think we've worked well together.
Mhm.
But I think at times, yeah, I could see that in the beginning, especially with struggling with anxiety,
Yeah.
that you were a little, nervous or
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit more introverted. And I think it's funny because I've heard that from many people. Some of my friends too, who I'm trying to convince, girls in their 30s and their 40s, even my mom in her 70s, like, talk to somebody, it's good,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know what to say or how to. I'm like, no, they're trained, they will ask you
Yeah. They
questions.
know how to get it out of you in a way
Yeah.
that's like not awkward.
Yes. Yeah. And then also, you hit the nail on the head with it being a good fit. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
not the right fit. I've been with different
Yeah.
providers through the years where I've had to gently or kindly back away from so I could
Mm-hmm.
find someone who fit.
Yeah.
And I say that my supervisor, when I went to school to be a counselor, my supervisor in my internship, she always said to all of her clients when I would observe her, um, like you said, I like the dating analogy. I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
She would use trying on shoes. She'd say it's like when you get a new
Yeah.
pair of shoes, you wear them around a time or two, maybe 3 times, especially like high heels as women. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are harder to break in.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit, if they give you if it's painful or it's just not doing it for you, but you bring them back, you get a new pair, right? I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
that works with COVID now, if they're accepting things back, but
Yeah.
anyway, I would say that. I like the dating analogy too. I'll use that too.
Yeah.
And hey, no hard feelings,
Mm-hmm.
because I understand that. I've had people that weren't really the right fit.
Yeah.
So I like that you said that because I want people to feel that freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a little awkward to have the conversation. It can even be done through email, but it's happened. And I'd
Yes.
rather that than people just fall off and off they go. You never hear from them again.
Yes.
Okay, because I might even be able to recommend you to somebody. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, this was so valuable. I hope everybody that does watch this as I'm getting this channel up and coming, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
share it with your friends, like it, subscribe, to all my viewers, and Sierra, whoever you feel like you want to share it with.
Yeah.
This was valuable. I really hope to do this again with other people and get just this feedback, especially for people who are new to this and they don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect.
Yeah.
So I do really value your time. I really appreciate it. Um, this has been really great.
Yeah, for me too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Was there anything you wanted to add or ask right before we say goodbye to our viewers? And if not,
Um,
that's cool too. We've covered quite a lot.
yes, we have. I'd say that I'm glad you're doing these videos just because, like we were talking about with the dating or trying on shoes analogy, you really don't know anything about the life coach usually until
Mhm,
you meet them face to face. So
mhm.
people who are looking at becoming clients by watching these videos will actually like get a sense of what you're like, which is really nice
Yeah.
because I know the first time when I was coming to you for counseling, it's
Mhm.
this nerve-wracking thing because you have no clue what the person's going to be like, but
Sure.
by watching these videos, they should have a sense of like ease knowing the
Mhm.
person that they're going to be working with.
Yeah, yeah, that's helpful. I'm sure people identify with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that's great. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to when and if you want to pick back up together down the
Yes.
road. And yeah, just goodbye to all our viewers. Be sure to check back in for another interview one of these days for some
Mhm.
tidbits of info that I'm going to be putting out there here and there. So thanks, Sierra.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.